Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, we are live. We are live. This is Music Director Live, first episode, first live stream on this channel. And in this channel, we'll be providing a lot of value, particularly to music directors, musicians, live performers, church musicians, anything related to live music. We will be here providing value. We will be interviewing guests, musicians, people who are killing it in the music business. And we're going to bring all kinds of people. Today, I have a very special guest, friend of mine, phenomenal keyboard player, but more importantly, phenomenal person. We've been chopping it up for the past a couple of months. We've worked together. He's a keyboard player, organ player, and music director. The dude is really like one of the top musicians I personally know as a keyboard player and an organist. And I'm really proud, and I feel personally, I feel honored to have him here on the show. We have Matthias Patrick. Matthias, let's get you in here, brother. Let's see. Get you in here. Let's see. Hey, man, are you muted by any chance?
No, sir.
Oh, there we go. Matthias Patrick in the cut. What's
What's going
good,
on, man?
bro?
What's going on? I'm good, man.
How
How you
you
doing?
doing? I'm feeling excellent, bro. I'm really proud that we are on this channel and that we are doing this first live and bringing in this episode to people, particularly musicians, music directors. As you and I've talked so many times on the phone and in person and on gigs, like we've shared so many things and so many things in value. It's a lot of
Mhm.
similarities in our conversations and so many things we talked about, like ideas and things we want to do and like things we feel like are missing within the marketplace for musicians. So I'm really excited to have this channel happening, and but more importantly, I'm really excited to have a person of your caliber on the channel. But how about you? How you doing, man?
I'm doing well, man. Just the middle of the week, coming to the middle of the week, just trying to get some things done, and
Definitely, bro.
just enjoying the opportunity to be on this podcast, to be, you know, a guest on here, and thank you for the opportunity, man.
That definitely, bro. So let's jump in, man. Like we've talked a lot, but for those that don't know, just tell us a little bit about yourself and what you're doing these days in terms of music and all that.
Okay, my name is Matthias Patrick. I'm 38 years old on Thursday.
Yo,
I represent,
real
yeah.
quick, happy birthday, by the way. Happy belated. Oh yeah, it's coming up, right? It didn't pass.
It's coming up. It's on Thursday.
Okay,
I'll be
just get a
38.
little in the middle, a little more to your left of the screen. Yeah, so you could perfect. So you can be right in the
Yeah.
center. So yeah, man, you were
So
saying?
no, I was saying that I'm 38 years old on Thursday.
That's
Now
what's
I've
up.
been playing piano, I would say, for over 27 years. I've been playing piano for a long time.
Dope.
I wasn't playing organ for the same amount of time that I was playing piano. I started
Okay.
organ when I was in college, um, because in my upbringing we never had like Hammond organ and things of that nature
Yeah.
to practice on. But I kind of stumbled onto it when I got to college.
Okay.
Um, Other background, I've been uh, playing for churches for some time now. I play for a quartet group. I'm playing a band. I'm a part of a band called Anomalous Day.
Yes.
I'm the music director at the Epiphany Brooklyn, Epiphany Church Brooklyn. I'm also one of the music directors at Brooklyn Faith Seventh Adventist Church, in which I've been there for about 13, 14 years at
Oh wow.
the beginning of next year. I've been there for 14 years.
Dope.
So and I've been trying to get into more songwriting ideas and developing my own personal ideas and recently. So that's basically in a nutshell the background.
Dope, man. That's what's up.
Yeah.
It seems like you got a lot of experience um as a keyboard player, music director, and playing organ in a church setting, correct?
Yeah.
Dope. So how'd you get involved in that world? How did that come about?
Okay. So my dad is a pastor. Well, he was a pastor.
Okay.
He retired in 2008, and he was a pastor, and being that my parents were Seventh-day Adventists, they still are, but they grew us up in the Seventh-day Adventist church, and we frequently used our talents in the church. So I didn't mention. I think that's probably the previous question that I left out. I also know how to play the violin, and that's my first instrument.
Yo, get out of here. I didn't even know that,
But
bro.
but 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 I haven't played the violin in a very long time. I haven't
To
played
the
the violin in a very
violin.
long time. I haven't. I haven't played the
Yo,
violin in a very long time. But that was my first instrument. I started when I was 4.
that's
I started the
crazy.
piano when I was 10. So the violin was always my first instrument, and my parents made sure that we got our full share of music, and of course my dad was a pastor, so naturally he might need help at his church, or the youth choir needs someone to play,
Yeah,
and I cut my teeth in a lot of those church atmospheres.
that's what's up, man. Yo, that is hilarious, man. I had to throw the DJ horn in there because,
Had to.
yo, I had no idea about that, bro. I literally just learned something about you. That's the beautiful thing
Yeah,
about this convo.
yeah, yeah,
Um, damn, yo, I'm just trying to picture what you sound like, man, in my head as
yeah.
a
I was
violin.
pretty good. I
Yeah?
was pretty good. I played all the way up until college. I used to be in
Okay,
orchestras and stuff like that. It was cool. It wasn't bad.
that's
Like
what's
I,
up.
I, I had a good tone, no good vibrato. I had good tone. But
Yeah.
it's just that when I got to college and the college that I was at, they weren't really prioritizing the violin. They were more so prioritizing the piano, and I just got really deep into piano. So I got the violin kind of fell off by the wayside a little bit. But we're gonna pick it back up. So we're gonna
Yeah,
do that.
yeah, definitely. And by the way, shout out to the SDA, the Seventh Day Adventist Church. I actually, my pops, who is also a pastor, um,
Hmm.
he started out in the SDA church, and I know so many musicians. For some reason, I've talked to like, I mean, I'm always talking to musicians. I talk to 100 musicians all the time because we're running into each other all the time, right?
Hmm.
But I've come across a lot of people that they are SDA, and I'm like, yo, what's up with
Hmm.
the SDA church, yo? Like,
Yeah.
they getting it in. They have birthed so many musicians, but that is what's up. Yo, man, on this channel, bro, what I like to do, man, is that we want to provide as much value for musicians, keyboard players, music directors, anything related to musicians, right? And one of the things that I like to talk about in general is money. You know me, I
Hmm.
do finances as well. And on this topic of finances, on that, one of the things I want to do is provide value to musicians in regards to money, in terms of how to make money, how to go about the business side. So I want to jump into a little bit of that. One of the questions that I have for you, bro, is how do you start making money with as a live musician, as a live performer? How did that go about?
Well, I started basically needing money in college. Like when I got to college, at Oakwood College, in Huntsville, Alabama, I had no money, and I just went to a service one day, and they needed someone to play, and I played, and then they were like, "Hey, do you want to get on keys for the duration?" And that's how I kind of stepped in, kind of got my feet wet a little bit. Then when I came back home from college, I had a friend. His name is Kirk Blackwood. He's an amazing guy. He also plays keyboard, and he's looked out for me like as a big brother. Like we always need those big brothers, big sisters, like to look out for us.
100%.
So he looked out and he found me a job playing at another church, and then he found me another job playing at a second church during the summer. So what I was doing, unbeknownst to me, was I was getting my name out there, even and making money at the same time. And that's I think that's one of the things that I think that's one of the things that people don't necessarily look at or realize. Like you are making a name for yourself, and you are putting yourself out there. You know, provided that the places that you work at, when you leave them on good terms, and you burn no bridges. You'll be fine.
I had to drop a couple of gunshots in there, bro, because you dropping, you dropping knowledge, bro.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
What is that, bro? I was like, what is that? And I was like, oh, it's a gunshot. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You got, when you drop when you drop in Hard Valley, bro, we gotta, you know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
I know I'm probably catching you off guard with that.
Nah, that first gunshot, I was like, well, what is that?
So you said something important that it's key, I think, for every musician, right? And very similar to what you're saying. I'll probably say I'll go ahead and just say a lot of musicians got their start like that, right? I have a very similar experience to that. You touched on you said something along the lines of you're making a name for yourself, even like when you start working with churches or something like. Can you touch on that a little bit?
Okay, so what happens is, well, at least in my experience, I never played at one location only. I've played at several different locations. So I've played at Kojic churches, I've played at apostolic churches, Pentecostal churches, I've played at Baptist churches, I've played at AME churches.
Mm.
So it's like I have this myriad of like experience throughout some of the denominations and then also the Seventh-day Adventist Church. So when you start appearing in different denominations and you start playing different styles of church, because there are different, ways that churches perform liturgy and things of that nature.
Yeah, yeah,
There's a myriad of ways. You know what I'm saying? So when you start to, excuse me, when you start to break through those barriers and you start to, you know, permeate through other levels and go to
yeah.
other forms of I guess you could say
Worship.
denominations,
Yeah.
yeah, forms of worship, then it's like, okay, you're starting to make a name for yourself because more people know you because you're not just in your own corner.
Mm.
And this was before the advent of the internet, you know what I mean? Or when the internet was burgeoning and like blossoming. Like it was not blossoming back in 2005. You know what I mean?
Facts.
We didn't have when I say internet, I mean social media.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's kind of like, yeah, people know who people were, but you did still need to put yourself out there because if you didn't, then it would be to your detriment if you didn't. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you're talking
And you
about like
had to
more.
make sure that you crush it, like crush the gig,
Yeah,
whatever it
yeah,
is.
yeah. Like from like today, it's a little bit. I wouldn't say easier, but the marketing is like you go do one gig, like someone catches footage of you, or you catch footage of yourself. You put it out, and then like the possibilities are so much, right? Because that one video can go viral, let's say, or that one video within a specific community of musicians or people or even churches, they can all come across that, be like, yo, who's that? And then trace you down, right? Whereas
Yeah,
back then, they didn't really have that.
they didn't
So,
have it.
yeah,
They didn't
yeah.
have it.
But there was still like that aspect of being able to perform live and play at a church service and still because of the musicians that were there playing with you or maybe someone was in that service, then word got out. So I feel
Mhm.
like back then it was just like you always had to constantly be on top of your game, but always as well as performing and playing at whatever church service or whatever invitation you got, just to kind of get your name out there. Which I still
Yeah,
recommend people to do, but I think the social media aspect has added another level of it's just like the icing on the cake, right? Like now because that you might be able to get more work because you're more visible. You might be
mm,
everywhere now because of the video. I love
mm.
that. So what I'm getting out of that is, if you're starting out, right, as a musician and you want to start making money, would you recommend people to take on as many gigs as they can, whether it be in a church or in a or whatever offers come in their way, just to kind of get the experience? Because you talked about something about like getting your feet wet, and in so doing, that other people get to know you. Like, do you recommend, or what do you recommend musicians these days, to start getting their feet wet with the business and all that?
Okay, so I would say this is how I would just say try to get under someone that can mentor you and show you like the ways of performance and playing and also the ways of business and knowing how to negotiate your prices and things of that nature,
Mm.
contracts. That's the first thing. I know that's kind of hard. That's still kind of difficult because everybody's in flux, everybody's moving around. You can be on social media and follow an influencer who does really great music, and then you follow him, and then you get his advice instead of tapping into people that are around you, like in person. But I would say, first of all, try to tap into someone who can be a mentor. because that's like really important. Number two, sow beside all waters.
Say it again.
And sow beside all waters. That
Okay.
means like don't stay in one place. Like I
Ooh.
think one of the things that I could improve on is I could put myself out in more waters instead of just being on the church side or the quartet side. You know, I have another water like called Anomalous Day that's not really necessarily church, but they're inspirational and they're Christian.
Okay. So they're
So
like a
it's
little
not
bit more
something that
contemporary.
yeah, you're not going to see that in a Kojic church, but you're going to see that at a Young Life camp. You're going to
Mm.
see that at a CCM youth night. You know what I mean? So I've been sowing beside that water, and that's been yielding some results. Also, if you're a musician and you like to play weddings, sow beside those waters as well.
Yeah.
If you like to play live music, find a live venue in your city or in your town that you really like to perform, that you really like to go to and hear people perform, and try to get in there. Like that's what I mean by sow beside all waters. Don't just be a church musician or don't just be a road musician. Like if you want to tour, and I mean I don't have anything against touring musicians, but what happens when the pandemic hits and all the tours dry up? You know what I mean? What happens and I saw that and we all saw that during the pandemic. A lot of the people that never really were church musicians were coming back to those churches like, can I get a job? You know what I mean? So it does make sense to sow beside all waters. I think the church route to me is one of the safest routes to sow beside because
Mm.
people are always going to want to go to church, you
One
know.
hundred percent.
And if you're in New York, you're always going to have a church gig if you're good enough. You know what I mean? Because New York is the place where there's mad churches. So you're not going to be sitting at home as a church musician not being hired. They will hire you. You just have to go to the right one. You just have to know the right one and go to the right one. I would say that sow beside all waters. I would also say try to learn some ancillary skills like Ableton, like Josh has been teaching me. And I'll put a pin in this comment and I'll put parentheses pause parenthetically to say, Josh, I'd like to really thank you for helping me with the Ableton
One
because
hundred percent.
before you stepped in and helped me with Ableton, I was not too familiar with it. You know what I mean? I'm an older guy, so when I was coming up, like the programming and the click tracks and all that and the stems and all that stuff, those were not a main staple of my denomination or where I grew up in as far as
Your
music wise.
waters and how you
It
grew up.
was exactly. It was more live instrumentation. There was no stems. There was not click tracks. People just playing drums, keyboard, organ, bass, lead guitar, and people crushed. I mean, obviously, people would still do well, but the added technology can be a gift, but it also could be a crutch. Now, I don't want to say a curse. It could be a crutch. So, yeah, I would say try to learn some other skills like be a MD, like
Mm.
or try to learn Ableton or those type of things. Like acquaint yourself with other skills, so you're just not just a one dimensional person. You know what I mean?
Bro,
Those are
you're
just a few tidbits.
you're talking facts, man. I want to touch on a few things. I kind of want to get into. You kind of brought something up that I think is really important. We didn't really have this plan, but
Yeah.
let me write this down. You said something that, bro, it's you know what, man, it's super key. Like when you talk about like get familiar in other places, other settings, other waters. Um, you touched on the pandemic, right? And how
Yeah.
you were still able to perform and work, which is the most important thing for a
Hmm.
musician. You need to work. Um, like, and you gave the example, like touring musicians. No shade to them, but unfortunately, because of this whole virus and the pandemic that happened, like that business, show business out the window, right?
Yeah.
But musicians that were playing church, that was still a thing. And even though churches weren't necessarily open as they usually would open, you and I and many other musicians we know were able to
Hmm.
play because we had church, that church in our pocket. Meaning we had that, we knew how to play at church sound, we knew how to play in church, and that demand was still there. And you're touching on something that is so important, man. Like pretty much you were able to be pandemic proof, I like to call it, right?
Yeah.
Recession
It,
proof, right?
if we're being honest, I got more work in the pandemic from churches than I ever got. I was playing at least 7 churches at a time.
Yeah.
I was playing at a lot of places because a lot of people were taping, and it was just kind of like, okay, so if you guys aren't taping on this day, I can play somewhere else.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
And then there's some churches that had the audacity to actually have service. You know what I mean? There are some churches that are pushing the envelope. So I was getting like I was getting playing locations a lot of times. I was playing at like maybe 6 or 7 churches. So it's like I'm not saying that I like the pandemic because I didn't like it.
Of
It
course not. I don't think
caused,
anyone did.
a, nobody wants to be in the pandemic. Nobody wants to be stuck in their house, going crazy. But the thing is, I was always outside during the pandemic because I was always going to a gig.
Yeah,
You know what I'm
bro.
saying? And those gigs held me down for all those times. And I didn't want to leave any of them, but when people started going back into the building, I had to make my decision.
Yeah, yeah. No, and you're touching on something I want to get into next. The crazy thing is that you said learn other skills that help you improve your value, or you're able to offer more value
Mm-hmm.
as a musician because you learned those skills. And one thing I want to recommend and touch on and recommend to a lot of musicians is what you said about learning other skills like Ableton. To that, I also want to add things like learning how to do some audio and video and include that as a part of your live performance can increase your value in the marketplace, whether it be playing for your church as a music director or whatever setting you're doing, man. Because now this whole thing with like, what are we doing right now, bro? We're live streaming,
Yeah.
right? And we're providing even more value to musicians. And because of that, our reputations will be known even more, right? So
Mm-hmm.
this is an important thing to know that live streaming, because of the pandemic and everything that happened, I think everyone opened their eyes and we're like, yo, this is a component we need to add, whether it be to our business, our church congregation, our nonprofit organization. This thing of doing and going live on YouTube or whatever other platform is out there is so key. So I want to recommend a lot of musicians, if you're looking to increase your value, if you're looking to try to get more of an income with your music and all that, learn these other things that are in demand as a musician, which is like learning the live streaming, the audio, the visual side of it. You talked about Ableton. By the way, thank you for that shout out, bro. And it was my privilege to an honor to really teach you some of those things. I mean, it really didn't do much. It's simple stuff, and
Mm-hmm.
you took off with it, right? But
Yeah.
thanks for that shout out. And by the way, anytime, you know. But
Yes, sir.
learning Ableton. Speaking about Ableton, um, a lot of people, musicians, don't know that you're actually able. And maybe I'll come back and talk on this on a separate video another time. But in Ableton Live, you're actually able to what's the word? You're able to automate
Mm-hmm.
lights,
Mm-hmm.
and you're able to automate the lyrics for your church service. You're able to automate a lot of things and make it happen with the music all at once. That's crazy. So think about that. If you're out there looking to get work, what will be more in demand? What would be more of a need, to hire someone that just simply plays, or someone that can music direct, do Ableton Live, and trigger all these other things? I'm thinking the person that can music direct and do the Ableton Live is probably going to get the first call because you're such a
Yeah.
need and you provide so much value. So thanks for sharing that, bro.
Yes. No problem.
Let's see. Let me ask you, what are some of the downsides of working in like church? What would you say are some of the
Okay.
downsides? And
Um.
whatever that is, like, just elaborate a little bit on it.
Okay. So one of the downsides that I've seen a lot is that a lot of musicians we get our gigs, we play them, we make our money, we set our rates, our prices, and things of that nature. And sometimes we just get burnt out.
Mm.
There's a burnout that happens when you do too much as a musician. You take on too many gigs. You're stretched too thin. Sometimes you can be burnt out, and not only can you be burnt out because you're stretched too thin, but you can be burnt out when the vision of the pastor doesn't match what's going on in the house, or the vision of
Mm.
another leader is brushing up or rubbing against the pastor's vision in the wrong type of way,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
or your vision is not being honored in a situation. So there are certain times where you can become flustered, you can become, discouraged, you can become annoyed. That's a con as well. Um, Sometimes the cons of doing music is, how your parents have benefits and stuff, and they have these jobs where they have pensions and stuff like that. Being a musician will probably push you into doing something else for your future, because being a musician is great in the moment, but when you get older and you kind of have to be there for a wife and a child or children, or a husband and children, vice versa. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's imperative for you to have something else. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying that music can't be the number one option, but
Yeah.
as a musician playing for a church, that can't be the only thing. You know what I mean?
Facts. Yo, I think you touched on something that's so important, man. Like, I agree with you. Um, it's not to say that music cannot be the number one thing, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
you and I know a lot of musicians that are and have been doing this as their main source of income for so many years, right? But that's not everyone's story, right? And I
Mm-hmm.
feel like there's this kind of like stigma amongst musicians, like if you do something else, like you didn't really make it happen for yourself as a musician, right? So, and I think you're touching on something else that's really important, which is financial literacy, being able to get your finances in order. You talked about retirement, 401k, and I think that is something that musicians should learn more about: financial literacy, financial education, creating generational wealth for themselves. Any advice? Any advice in terms of what, in regards to what you're doing for that retirement and how you plan that out?
Well, every musician needs not only life insurance but hand insurance.
Woo!
I have a friend, and names are are omitted to protect the innocent. Okay, but I have a friend who actually broke his hand and he couldn't play for a long time.
Oh, that's
And
crazy.
what you can do, you can go to Lords of London and you can see if you can get some insurance. Like, there's different ways to get insurance for your hands, because those are our money makers. Of course, the organ is the foot as well, but for piano, those are your money makers, or
And
guitars,
drummers,
and drummers, it's your money
foot, and
maker,
guitar players too, because they
and
got the
guitar
pedal.
and guitar players especially. All those bar chords that y'all can't play if you don't have that one hand.
Oh, but
You
they
know what I
gotta
mean?
use the pedal too, like the pedals and stuff like that for the foot.
Right. So it's like there's so much that goes into it, that you might want to get some hand insurance. Then you might
Mm,
want to get some life insurance.
life insurance.
Because you will have, as Josh previously mentioned, you'll set up your family, generational wealth, but you can also borrow from that in case of an emergency.
Love that.
You know what I mean? So it's kind of like, yeah, you pay into it and it can be a hefty price, but you just got to know that what you're paying into is going to reap dividends on the back end,
One
and you'll
hundred
be fine.
percent.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that. I love this kind of talk. This is one of my favorite subjects is financial literacy and providing that education. Because I've seen what it done for me and my family. Now I'm married. I just had a newborn a couple of months ago, and
Congrats.
thank you, bro. Thank you.
Yeah.
So having that that foundation of financial literacy and financial education, I agree with you. Everyone should have life insurance, but since our audience is particularly musicians, get yourself some life insurance. If you're not aware of the values and the benefits that life insurance provides, I have a link in the description that's an affiliate for you, so you can get some life insurance or speak to a representative agent that can help you get you and your family protected. So check that out. But yeah, man. You also touched on something. You said one of the cons of working in a church setting is, you didn't say it like this, but what I got out of it was communication.
Right.
Right? Sometimes you come into a church setting and you get hired, and there might be like all this other like backstory you're not aware of, and then there might be like not necessarily conflict, but then there might be like that moment where it's kind of a little bit of friction just because the visions are not aligned, or the pastor may have a different vision than what you have. And what I get out of that, man, is that it's so important for music directors specifically to kind of figure out when they're getting hired by a church, to ask the right questions. What would you say some of the right questions would be for music directors who are about to get hired at a church, so they can avoid this kind of situation where it's like, well, we agreed on this and this is kind of what's on paper, but then 1 2 months later they start adding more things to your job description. You're like, wait, this wasn't even on my job description. Now I'm like,
Right, right, right.
now instead of just playing live music, I might be like taking care of this or doing this and doing that. That's one scenario. And then the other scenario is like, you come in and then there's another person that's involved in the role. Like let just give an example. A musician, you could be a music director, but then there's also someone else like a singer that might be like the worship director that's over you, and that wasn't necessarily communicated
Yeah.
when you first got hired. So, what would be some of the questions that you would recommend music directors when they're about to get hired at a church to avoid that kind of a messiness or that kind of conflict? And that way, it could be a smooth situation where everyone's kind of on the same page.
Okay, well, the thing that we should take foremost in our minds, we should keep foremost in our minds, is that we always want to make the job easier. You know what I'm saying? We don't want redundancy. We don't want unnecessary redundancy. We don't want communication issues. We want everything to be done decent and in order, but we also want it to be easy so we can have fun. The
Facts.
way that you can make things easy is when you ask your pastor exactly what the job description is going to be, what exactly your duties and responsibilities are. Because if there are people that take advantage of one person who's an MD, they can throw loads of work at the MD, and the MD is looking at his job description like that's not on it. You know what I mean? And so the communication between a music minister and the rest of the team, especially the pastor, has to be tight because the vision has to lock up and line up. You know what I mean? It has to lock up and line up.
Communication, man. I agree. Communication is everything. I kind of
Yeah.
want to say a few things to that as well. I think what I would recommend musicians to do, or music directors, let's say, what I would recommend music directors to do who is onboarding to a new church MD position is to try to first get a feel and a sense of the church,
Yeah.
right? Because one of the things that I've seen that can get super complicated is that, and I say this respectfully, I've been working as a music director in church for like, at this point, I want to say getting close to 15 years, right?
Yeah.
So over like 12, 13 years of being a music director, I've seen how sometimes pastors can kind of go on YouTube, let's say, and I don't know, see Elevation Worship or see like New Breed, Israel New Breed, see PJ Morton, and they might have seasons where like this is what they're focused on, this
Right.
kind of music, and then like you came on board, and they're like, yo, we want this style, we want, like, let's say, just as an example, we want CCM, and then 6 months down the line, because music is all about trends, right? Everything's about trends. Everything on Twitter, YouTube, like it's all about what's trending.
Yeah.
And then that CCM kind of fades away, and then there's a new trend of like maybe something that's more gospel, and then they're like, yo, like more Maverick City is a little bit more black, right? So now we want more of that. I'm not saying that this is specifically what's happened. I'm just giving examples of kind of stuff that I've seen happen. So when you first came in, they're like, we want CCM, and then now that you're here 6 months later, and that's not the trend anymore, it's like we
Hmm.
want more of this. We want more Maverick City now. And then from that, another 6 months, 3 to 6 months pass, and then they're like, well, we want more Newbury because it's too white now or whatever.
Yeah.
So my
Yeah.
recommendation to musicians is, to music directors, let me say, is to kind of get a sense of the church, the sense of the style, right? Because you talked about this earlier. Like, there's different styles. There's more like the gospel style. There's more of this contemporary style. There's more of the contemporary gospel style, which is like a blend of both. So get a sense of the church and the pastor and the style, and see if it aligns with you and your style, right? That's the first thing I would say. The second thing I would say is, from there, I would try to ask as many questions as I can, just to see the responses, and if the responses make sense for you, right? So those are some of the things that I would ask
Yeah.
when taking on a position, and then from there, seeing if the people that you're going to be over as a music director kind of help you or align with your style of leading.
Hmm.
The three things I would recommend music directors to kind of ask. So moving along, bro, what is the job of a music director, in your opinion?
All right. So in my opinion, I think the music director's job is to make sure that every single piece of music that is prescribed or supplied or given as homework or assigned is to be played with professionalism and just to make sure it sounds tight, just to make sure it's performed well. That is
Mm,
basically my job. And the job of a musical director is not just playing because okay, so before I became a musical director, I did a lot of playing. I still do a lot of playing, but the majority of the musical director's job is not playing. The majority of the musical director's job is interfacing between different personalities, right? So the job of a music director is not necessarily to play, because playing is 30% of the job, 25% of the job, but the majority of the job is to make sure that the singers get the right version of whatever song we're doing, or
the arrangements.
the musical, the I guess the person who's singing praise team that week sends the stems of their original song to me. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of like having to interface with people about a myriad of topics that all have to do with either music or the church. You know what I mean? So it's like, if I was to say in one sentence, the musical director's job is to make sure that the musical department runs smoothly, and primarily to make sure that every single piece of music that is played tightly and decently, um, and with proficiency.
I love it. I love it. You made it sound super simple. I love that. And I think that's how it should be. But for whatever reason, it seems like sometimes it can get so complicated. Why do you think
Yeah,
it can be so complicated, the MD? At least in my experience, I'll speak for myself.
yeah.
When there's times that I was MDing at certain locations, I was like, yo, I feel so overwhelmed. Like it's like a million things coming in my way. But the way you communicated it just now is like, it was really not that simple. It's just like you said, just make the band sound like clockwork. Make sure we're all on the same page with the arrangements,
Yeah.
and just kind of the communication side, the admin structure side.
Mm.
So then, why is it that it comes out so complicated? Like being a music director, why does it feel like it's so complicated? Or let
Okay.
me ask, well, before you answer that,
Yeah.
in your experience, when you were music directing, was it complicated? Did you feel overwhelmed?
There were times where I did feel overwhelmed. Um, okay, so let's say you're a musical director for the first time, like I
Okay.
was, and there were some prerequisite skills that I had to learn that were not taught to me, and I had to kind of learn them on the fly, or I had to employ someone else from the outside to teach me what I was supposed to know.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And so that can be a occupational hazard when it comes to being an MD. Learning the job is sometimes going to be an occupational hazard, because you can
Okay.
crash and burn. You can crash and burn and flame out on an actual gig. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? You can, and it's times when it has happened. But it's like, you just have to understand that the mistakes that you're making or that you have made are not being made, intentionally. But that's why they're called mistakes, and they're also leading you to better proficiency in the future.
So
You know
music
what I mean?
directors, man,
Yeah,
leading before there's a lot of preparation going into it. Certain tools you need,
yeah.
and that requires preparation on your end before you step into the MD position. Correct?
Hmm. Hmm.
I love it. Is there a system you use to MD? Like, what I mean by that is like when I would MD, and I actually started MDing recently again.
Yeah.
At this point, because I feel like I have so much experience MDing, it's kind of like second nature, right? But at the
Hmm.
beginning, I remember I was like, yo, I had to like, I would have like like almost like my own job description, right? For myself to keep me reminded, like a checklist, like this is what I have to do, this is what I have to do, this is what I have to do throughout the week, and then on Sundays and or wherever we're playing live and music directing live, this is what I have to do for the band, this is what I have to do for the singers, just to keep me in check. Do you have some kind of system like that, like a checklist or something that keeps you in check as a music
Well,
director to keep you up
I
to date and remind you of everything you got going on leading up to your Sunday gig or whenever is it that you guys play?
well, I've in my experience, I've gotten into such a rhythm. Like Mondays for me is usually programming day. So like if I go into Planning Center and I see them some songs that need to be programmed, as far as Ableton stems or click tracks or whatever, Monday is the day where I start.
Start early in the week.
Start early in the week so you don't have to be stressing yourself on Wednesday trying to figure out something for Thursday because it's not going to work. You know what I mean? Most times it's not going to work. Some people are able to work, very proficiently and efficiently under pressure.
Mm,
But I don't know. You know what I mean? It's better for you to make, again, as I said before, your job is to make directorship easy.
yeah.
You know what I mean? If everybody learns a song and everybody kills the performance, and we sound great, and we sound like we worship, we sound like we practiced, then everybody's gonna be fine. You know what I mean? Everybody's gonna be cool. And all that preparation, you're not gonna think about how hard it was to prepare when the finished product is being, you know,
Delivered, yeah.
being delivered. You know what I mean?
Yo, you said something that is super important to touch on. Um, Working under pressure. I
Yeah.
think that as a live musician and as a music director, it comes with pressure, but it's not recommended, is what you're saying. Like, right? Like you kind of want to avoid as much pressure as possible as a
No, well,
music
I don't want to
director.
say I don't want to say at avoid of as much pressure as possible because there's some pressures make diamonds. You know what I mean?
That's a fact.
So it's like
That's why I wanted to touch on this because
there's
I
some
think
pressure
that
that you need.
yeah,
Like
like
the
I think
pressure
pressure
I
is good.
felt for Ableton, I needed that pressure. Give
Yeah,
me that
yeah.
pressure.
Because
Because if
kind
I
of
didn't have that pressure, I wouldn't have learned it. You see what I'm
hmm
saying? Or I
so
wouldn't have
then
gone to you to help me. You see what I'm
yeah, so
saying?
then avoid unnecessary pressure.
Unnecessary pressure. Yes. Avoid unnecessary pressure. Yes. But
100%.
there is pressure you need to make
Yeah,
you a better MD or a better musician.
and
You just need it.
that's why I wanted to touch on that because pressure is kind of comes with like the live music stuff. Um, but unnecessary pressure, what it does, it just creates more issues for everyone. Because I also feel like if that energy is around and some people, not everyone deals with pressure well, right? So some
Right.
musicians or some singers in this case, can if there's so much pressure going on, that can kind of break someone in a live
Mm.
setting. You about to hit the stage and do a live set with your worship team or whatever.
Yeah.
And then like there's one person that's just like, yo, I feel so much pressure. They're just about to just faint on stage. I've seen that happen.
Yeah,
Like
yeah, yeah,
it just
yeah.
creates stage fright. So you want to avoid unnecessary pressure. And what you're saying, kind of what I got of it too, is like you said start early in the week, right?
Yeah.
If like let's say you're this Sunday you got a set, then today's what, Tuesday,
Hmm.
and then Monday would have been the ideal day to kind of get your stems in order and your backing tracks in order. We're able to kind of reach out to the musicians and get all that set for Sunday. But it also implies that lead singers kind of be on top of their game, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's true. That's
Because
true.
if singers is not like, we kind of respond. We work, if we're working with music directors, work with singers and stuff like that. And if the singers are choosing the songs, and they're taking a long time to send, and they're not like doing it on early on in the week. If like you guys agree to like, hey, every Monday we need to have the songs set up and this and that, then every Monday the singers need to provide that music. But if it's like if you're behind the eight ball and you're like, yo, it's Wednesday, it's still no set, it's like, bro,
Hmm.
one of the things that I like to do when I music direct is, and this is if I have this level of I guess influence and like this kind of I'm allowed to kind of give this level of direction. I kind of like to plan everything a month in advance, right?
Right.
Just so that way I can have I know the next 4 Mondays, like every Monday I could wake up and just make the set for that week, right? That's what I like to do. But again, not every music director will be able to have that level of leadership or that level of responsibility where they can kind of say, hey, let's plan out the whole month, right? Especially if your church is so like into production and there's so many other things like the video team and what you call it, the lyrics or whatever you call it, the lyrics ministry or the pro presenter team that needs to
Yeah.
put the lyrics up. If you have so much of that going on, you're not going to be able to necessarily say, hey, let's plan out the whole month, right? Because there's other teams involved and there might be some, not conflict, but you might be crossing and stepping over. So I get that everyone is not able to do that, but personally, that's what I like to do, and that's what I would recommend music directors to do, just to always stay ready on your end if you can. Here's a question that I think is and this has been challenging for me, but I think it'll be helpful for a lot of music directors. How do you
Gotcha.
deal with a musician who doesn't play pocket or follow your direction?
I mean, that's hard. That's definitely hard because it does matter. It does matter the status of the musician because another understated job of an MD is to be a politician. He has to manage so many different personalities, right? He has to manage. He has to
You got
manage a variety of personalities.
you got to
Everyone's not
elaborate
the
on that,
same,
man.
huh?
You got to elaborate on that. What do you mean by that?
When I say politician, you have to pick your spots. Let's say you have someone that doesn't hit the cymbals when you say go to the cymbals in the talkback mic,
Yeah.
and they keep going and they keep doing right. They keep going.
Yeah.
You could talk to them after certain infractions,
Hmm.
but what you have to do is you kind of have to heap coals of fire on them, like in terms of like good words and help them, understand their worth before you come with the constructive criticism. You know what I mean? And that's a way that music directors can be so much better because if you have a guy who can't play, you can have that conversation with him and he can trust you to have a conversation with him, right? Now, if a musician isn't doing what they're supposed to be doing, then the firing is coming. You know what I mean?
Woo! Give them the boot.
Firing is coming.
Meaning
And
like fire them.
yes,
Oof.
yeah, the firing is coming because it's like, what do you want? What do you want? It's like if you want to do this job or fulfill this assignment, and you were chosen to fulfill this assignment,
As a music director.
yeah, or the person who's playing drums, or the person who's playing lead guitar, or the person who's playing bass, doesn't matter. Those pieces are not replaceable. I mean, they are in theory, but when you look at the people behind them,
Yeah.
you don't want to replace this person. But if this person is not playing the songs that are supposed to be played, they're coming to rehearsal late or just not showing up, these type of things, these things add up.
Wow. Fire them. It's tough language, man, but I agree. I think that when it's time, obviously that's not like the first route, right? Yo, you didn't hit this cymbal, you didn't do this chop, you didn't set up the drum, or
Yeah,
you
yeah,
didn't do
yeah.
this guitar lick, right? You're fired. Though I see some environments that are very aggressive like that, yo. I used to
Yeah.
play at church where, yo, quick story where one of the drummers, this was like a very popular church. I'm not going to say the name of the church
Yeah.
out here in Brooklyn, but their level of professionalism was like top notch, right? Because they're like a church that has recordings and like got Grammys and all that. And they would not play. And like the dude, I remember the drummer at that time, we were playing a couple, and it wasn't really hard music that we were playing. We were playing like a contemporary gospel type of vibe song, and drummer just was not setting it up and not playing the proper like kick pattern. And like,
Yeah.
yo, there was parts of it that I was like, it was really bad, but there was sometimes I'm like, all right, you can pull it off. He just needs a little bit of guidance. But the bass player was not feeling it. And the bass player is like, let the worship director know. Not even me, because I was the music director, but the dude on top of me was the worship director. He let him know. And yo, like, day later, like, get that call, like, yo, the drummer's no longer with us. I was like, man, these people are just. But you know what? I get it. Like, you got the church has a reputation to protect in terms of like the level of music and stuff like that. They're
Standards.
record,
Got to protect those
yeah,
standards.
got it. They got that morale. They got that. that level of excellence. So I was like, you know what, it makes sense. But that's not the first alternative. I just fire them. If you're able to work with them, would you say you continue to work with them and like kind of work around
Yes,
their
you do,
yeah
because it also depends on how much the person means to the church.
yeah
You know, you could be having a deacon that plays for free. He can play, but there's some aspects of his drum playing that aren't that good. But he can play, right? You
yeah
know,
man
you're not just gonna fire him on the spot. You're gonna work with him because he has a talent. You know what I mean? You're gonna work with him.
100%. It's not an easy conversation, man. Um, like, is there a point that you kind of, is there a point where you're like, all right, like, how do you go about communicating to them though? Like, yo, you really need to do this, you really need to do that, or have you gotten to that point in the past couple of years of MDing, and or what's your experience been with that? Like, having a conversation, because I think that that's the toughest part of music directing. It's not like you can. I think great musicians, a great musician like yourself, can identify that like in a minute. Like, yo, this person's not like up to par, or not necessarily not talented. He's just not, because there's many great musicians that are phenomenal musicians. They just don't play pocket. They kind of play in their own world, right? So it's sometimes not a matter of the talent. Sometimes it's just like, yo, this person's in their own world and they need to learn how to play with a band. How does
Yeah.
that conversation happen? Cause I feel that's in my experience, bro. When I've music directed, I'm like, yo, and I had someone that was not in line and not playing in pocket, and I had to have that conflict. It was like, yo, so challenging, and like every Sunday or every week, it'll be like, oh, I have to confront this, and it like I would be on top of a person, let's say, one of the musicians that wasn't in pocket, and then every time I see him, I have to have a conversation, and then every time
Yeah.
moving forward, it kind of became a thing where he didn't want to see me. It kind of became really personal. So how do you
Hmm.
deal with that, like the conflict side of it and the confrontational side of it, having those conversations that are really challenging?
Well, you have to be wise as a serpent and harmless as a dove. You know what I mean? You got
Yeah,
to pick your spots. Whenever someone makes a mistake, you have to you don't have to necessarily accentuate every single mistake someone makes, right? You don't have to accentuate it. You can still understand the complexities of what they're doing. Also, certain
sorry, I think we
there's
lost you for a second.
yeah, I wasn't saying anything.
Oh, okay.
There's also like a certain amount of frustration that you can have with a person that's not listening to you. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And I think I'm not trying to say that you fire the person, but I am trying to say that you try to talk to the person and you try to express to them the importance of staying within the system, because we all are, a part of the body. Two
yeah.
feet, two hands, a head,
Yeah, da, da,
nose,
da,
skin. You know what I mean? We
da.
are all part of the body. And if
Facts.
one part messes up, bro, it's trash.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
If
yeah.
just one part doesn't do what it's supposed to do, it makes the situation become untenable, and you don't want that.
We got my man Matthias Patrick in the cut, dropping gems for the music directors and musicians. Yo, Matthias, where can people find you real quick? What's your Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, OnlyFans?
My Facebook,
Okay.
not OnlyFans, not yet, no OnlyFans yet. My Facebook is Matthias, Matthias Patrick, Patrick. My Instagram is Matt on Keys, Mattonkeyz. That is where I'm at. Um,
I love it. I love
I'm
it.
working on becoming more vocal and more present online. Because I'm from what they call the old school, because I'm not really old, but I am old.
But you
Like
grew
I've been
up,
around since
yeah, you grew up
yeah,
with
I
the
grew up
old
in the
heads.
'90s.
Yeah, yeah.
I grew up with the old heads.
Me too, man. I
So
grew up with kind
so
of the old heads too.
yeah.
Dudes would not
So
play. You want to talk about people who were strict, yo? Whoo! Cause got
hmm
some stories. The old heads would come at me, and I love it. No diss to the old heads. I just call them old heads out of love.
hmm
But yeah, man. So, what was your Instagram again?
Mattonkeyz.
I love it. So, yo, people watching, you can find him at his handle he just mentioned. Matthias got a lot of great information. We're gonna move along with the interview and just continue to drop gems. We're getting close to the end, so let me just ask you this, Matthias, and then maybe from this last question,
Hmm.
maybe we can touch a little bit on like maybe some like core stuff, core
Yeah.
structure. I saw you on Sebastian's channel. Shout out to my boy Sebastian.
Yeah.
Wheat Works.
Yes,
And
sir. That's
I
man.
love Sebastian. He's a great brother. And
Hmm.
if anyone needs organ repair, Sebastian is a great person to contact. But also, you can find him on his channel, Wheatworks. I believe it is
Hmm.
right.
Yeah, we works.
Little shout out to Sebastian. But I saw you there, and I was like, yo, man, like that's dropping so much like value just from the chops perspective and the theory side of things. And we'll do a little bit of that here maybe at the end. You cool with that, Matthias?
Yeah, I'm cool. I'm cool.
Cool. So let's wrap this up, man. Like, what piece of advice would you give up and coming musicians and up and coming MDs? What piece of advice would you give them? You dropped so much info um, today and so much value, right?
Yeah.
And we are super grateful for that. But if there was one piece of advice you can give musicians and up and coming MDs to make it in the business, what would it be?
Um, don't doubt yourself. If you are a new MD, you're up and coming, don't doubt yourself. Do what you can while you can to make yourself better. Do what you can while you can to make yourself better. And don't doubt yourself. Get someone in your orbit that can really help you be your better self. Um, and always stay humble, man. Keep keep the main thing the main thing. Because if you're in church, the main thing is God. So keep Him being the main thing. There's going to be struggles. There's going to be temptations. There's going to be um, different things that you may deal with. But just keep the main thing, and understand why you're doing it, and be humble. Um, be humble and try to take people along the way. Whenever you get help, take somebody else along the way. Yeah.
I love that.
Pew, 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 pew.
Yo, my man Matthias, man, yo, thank you, bro. So much value, so much information. I gotta update the sounds, the sound effects. Any recommendations, bro?
um, you got to get maybe a little bit more crowd noise on the applause. A more route, a
Facts.
more like a stadium. Like
Maybe this Sunday I go record the church I'm at.
yeah, yeah, something like that.
Nah, facts. That's a fact. You
Or
know the
or
sound.
or maybe have someone in there like a worship crowd. When someone says something mad ill like worshipy or spiritual, have someone, oh, hallelujah, 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 hallelujah.
Yeah,
That type of
yeah,
thing.
yeah. You
Mad
know what?
worship. Yeah.
You know what'd be fire too, bro? Maybe I can get this from you. Get
Yeah.
like an organ, like one of them praise break, not
Yeah,
praise break, but
yeah,
one of
yeah,
them
yeah,
praise
yeah, yeah.
moments. Like we got that crazy diminished chord in there with the crazy dynamics.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Everyone drops some fire, just
yeah. Yeah.
that'd be
Yeah,
fire.
yeah,
Maybe you
yeah.
could hook it up. Maybe you could hook it up. But yo, man, we're at the end of this interview, and we always want to leave the audience with kind of the icing on the cake. Is there anything musically that you kind of been messing with? Cause yo, you people gotta know, man, you a beast, bro. I know a lot of people that know you know that, but those that
Mhm.
are just getting to meet you, they need to know like Matthias is fire on the keys, bro.
Oh man, I appreciate it, man. I do.
Yeah, man. Anything musical that you kind of been messing with, learning, transcribing, riff or chord change, two
All right,
five one chord change that can just blow someone away.
all right. So what I've been working on is because I don't really have a rhyme or reason to what the things that I work on. Um, so there's a chord that is played in funk.
Yeah.
That like a lot of people play. Well, not a lot of people. I haven't heard a lot of people play it,
Yeah.
but it's a chord that goes
Real
like
quick,
this.
before you do that,
Yeah.
is there a way you can if only if you can, to the camera a little bit more, like yeah, that way see, we can see the sauce happening.
All right. So this chord right here is, so you know how when you're playing E flat, I'm starting in E flat, right?
Turn the camera a little bit to see you too a little bit, just
Can I flip the camera, like flip it
right.
like this?
Can you? Yeah, you can. Let me just. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take you off, and don't worry, we'll cut this portion in the live stream, make it a separate
Oh,
video. So we'll edit it. I'm gonna kick you out. Just come back in. Just call
all
back
right.
in. All right, my man Matthias Patrick stepped out of the live real quick for a second, so he can get his camera right, and we can get some value, um, from some very practical live music, piano playing from him. There you go. Just calling in. Let's bring him in. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Alrighty.
All right. I think I have a remedy. I think I have a remedy.
Like
Uh,
for the angle.
yeah, I'm not sure, but I I think I may have a remedy. I might. I may have. I may have a remedy. All right.
In the meantime, I'll play some music. Just give me thumbs up when you're ready.
All right.
Boom. Fire, fire.
See me?
Yeah, let's get you out the stream again and catch you back in
Yeah.
because I think the camera's acting up again.
Yep. All right.
Boom. There we go.
Okay.
All right, let's turn this music off.
Okay. So there's this chord that I hear a lot of people, well, some people I hear playing it in like funk music. So we're in E flat, right? So what we have here is we have our E flat, we have our D flat, right? That's 7, and then we have that tritone, right? Right, and then we add the second D flat up top, right? And then we have this chord here that I don't know what to call it because it feels like it's a diminished chord, but it doesn't have every single note of the diminished chord.
Okay.
So we can take out the left hand, right? And if we just break it down with the tritone, take out the bass note and just go like here, right? So we have G, D flat. Then in our right hand we have E flat, G flat, and C.
Real quick, what's your root key? What key are you in?
E flat. I'm in
E
E
flat.
flat.
All right.
So you know me. I'm not really a run guy. I'm the type of guy that I like to substitute a lot of stuff. I'm a substitute guy.
That's
So
crazy because in my mind you got runs.
I mean, in a lot of people's minds, they're like, yeah, yeah. I'm like, I don't run like that. But I like voicings and I like chords and I like substitutions. So this right here, this E flat dominant chord of sorts, I can use to go to an A flat, right? I can use to go to an A flat if I want, and I can even use it. I can use it as the one of something. I can use it as the six of something. I can use it as the seven of something. I can
Hmm.
use it as the three of something. So okay, pick a number between 1 and 8, 1 and 7. Pick a number between 1 and 7.
3.
3. Okay, so I'm gonna use it. I'm gonna make this chord the three of something, right? So this chord here, right? I'm gonna make it the three of something. Now E flat is three in what? B, right?
In B
Yeah, E flat is three in B. It's
or
the
C
third
minor,
note.
but in this case B.
Right. So E flat is sorry, not yeah, E flat is the third degree of the scale of B.
B, correct.
So 1, 2, 3. Right? Now imagine that now I played that chord the first time in an E flat context. Now what if I was playing it in a B context, but using that as a three? All right, so I'm gonna
Using
play
what as a 3?
using the same chord as the three
Oh, okay,
because
okay.
the bass note is E flat and E flat
A
is the
third,
three
yeah,
in B, right?
correct.
So let's see. How great is our God, right? How great is our God? So uh,
You're in B or E flat? No, you're in B.
I'm in B right now,
Correct.
right? So sorry, I'm trying to use that
So
same
good. Try to transpose in your head.
right. So I did the same thing down here because now I'm using the B as the dominant instead of the E flat as the dominant. The E flat dominant is this. The B dominant is this.
Can you play it in context one more time?
All right. So how great is our God?
Sing.
Is our God. Yeah. So oh see how great. I'm using the same principle.
That same concept of the
I'm using the same concept, but I'm just
just
using instead of me playing the E flat dominant, I'm playing the B dominant.
mm,
Another thing, you know how tritones you can play the tritones two different ways,
correct.
right? So let's say I'm in E flat again, right? So G I could play it G D flat, or I could play D flat G, right?
Yeah.
But the same concept would go for the G flat, the D G the D flat G, as it did for the inverse of it.
Okay.
So like right, instead of it being here, it's down here now. So I go like this, right?
How would that work out in context?
All right, okay. Uh dang, I'm trying to figure out a way to do it. So okay, let's do how great is our God again. So how great is our God? So in your left hand you have D flat and G, which is the tritone that was inverted. Remember, it was D flat the first
Mm-hmm.
time, but now it's D flat G.
So
It's flipped,
yeah, yeah. From like
and
the
now I can
second
put
to
that same. Now I can put that same diminished that same kind of diminished chord, but not really a diminished chord because it doesn't have.
yeah,
I take all I do is I take out all I do is I take out the uh the, the third note in the diminished chord. So I take this E flat out. So in the diminished chord that I'm using here, I got A, I got C, I got E flat, I got F sharp or G flat, right? So I take the E flat out and I have this, right? So I have A, C, and F sharp or G flat. And then what I do is I put my tritone right next to it. So you have D flat and G in the left hand, right? It was inverted.
yeah.
And then now in the right hand you have that kind of diminished chord thing where you got A, C, F sharp.
Mm.
Now if I flip the tritone and go G, D flat, right? G, D flat instead of D flat G, I go G, D flat. Now I do the same chord. Well, not the same chord that I just played here, but the same type of chord. It's gonna sound
Mm-hmm.
different. And that's the original chord we just played,
So in
right?
context, how would that sound?
So you got so let's say um I guess we'll use how great is our God. So how great is our God? Sing with me, how great is our God? Oh, we see. Okay. How great is our God? How great is our God? Sing with me.
Woo, I see it. I see it. I see it.
How great, you see what I'm saying? So it depends on how you play the tritone. It depends on how the tritone looks.
Yeah.
Because all you have to do is place the tritone and then place that diminished chord right next to it. So okay. I lift my hands in total adoration
Yep.
unto you. Right? You reign on the throne for your
For
God.
you, I got alone.
Because of
Cause of
you,
you,
my
my
cloudy days
days.
are gone. I can sing to you this song. I just
Mm.
wanna say that I love you more than anything.
And you actually make this work like while you're playing.
Yes, but I don't do it at like certain
Yeah,
things. I don't do
yeah.
it at certain venues because I want to flip. I don't want to make them flip out. But it's
Yeah,
like
you know the setting and
this.
the
This is me in
timing
my
when to.
practice time. This
Yeah,
is me
yeah,
in my
yeah.
practice time.
Okay.
So I'm trying to dedicate my time to learning every single
Learn it
right.
and then be key in how to apply it.
That's the dominant of A flat, right? Then I throw that diminished thing on it, and it changes the whole complexity of the thing.
It's like
Because
reharmonization what you're doing.
yeah,
Kind of.
and the B is outside of the outside of the scale, so it kind of sounds wonky.
Yeah.
And the F and that B is another tritone.
Yeah.
Then you got the D on top of that, on top of the tritone for the dominant A flat.
Crazy.
You can even use that. So remember how you have A flat. So the same note, the same chord you use on A flat, you can use on what D, right?
Yeah.
Because it's a tritone, the tritone effect. So the same note that you use on the same chord you use on A flat, you can use on D. So you like let's say you're gonna go to I love you Jesus, right? So I just wanna say that I love you more than anything.
Woo, I love you, Jesus.
I love you Jesus. You see what I'm saying? I just use
Woo.
the same chord over the A flat to go to the D, which also can set me up to my C sharp chord. You see what I'm saying? So it's like I'll be just in here trying different things.
That joint is crazy, yo.
I'll be there trying mad stuff, so I don't know. I'd be trying stuff.
I love it, bro. One more time in context, just to finalize and
All right.
close.
All right. So I'm gonna do. Um, I just want to say more than anything. So because of you, my cloudy days are gone. I can sing to the sun. I just want to say love you more than anything.
Kind of use that as a passing chord there.
Huh?
I felt like you use it as a passing chord in that one.
Yeah, I use it as a passing chord. I've
Oh.
used it as a dominant, and then I use it as a passing chord to get to my D flat. I love
Woo.
you, Jesus. You know what I'm saying?
You can have me
So
break out in tongues, bro.
it's weird. It's weird. It's weird because of that top note. That top note B. That's not in
Yeah.
the it's not in the scale. So it's like, you know what I mean? But I still like to use it once or twice max because I don't. You don't want to
Yeah,
throw
you want
people out.
yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You don't want
You
to
won't
throw
throw
people
anyone
out.
off either.
Yeah, you don't want to throw anyone off. But just to go outside of it one good time, you know.
That's a fact.
So I love you, Jesus. Yeah.
Woo. Dope, bro. Once again, where can people find you for those watching?
Matt
Drop
on
your IG.
Keys
Matt
on
on Key.
Instagram. MattonKeyz.
And bro, are you giving lessons by any chance for those who are interested? You doing anything virtual? Come
Hit me in
on,
my
man.
DMs for that information,
I like
please.
that. I like that. Bro, it's been a great time.
Yeah, man, it really has been. I
We
thank you
appreciate
for the
you.
opportunity.
Nah, thank you for coming on, bro. I'm super grateful for your friendship and relationship, and
Yes, sir.
just bro, you just dropped so much info. I know many people will be blessed, and many people will find this content and this conversation very valuable. So thank you for that, bro. And man, yeah, bro, let's keep in touch, bro. Till
We
next
will.
time, brother.
All right.
All right, man. Peace.